In some African regions, large populations of guineafowl roam in vast contiguous native ranges, as they have for several million years. In other regions, however, natural barriers are formed that bisect the populations in the form of massive rivers, mountain ridges, and unsuitable habitat like dense tropical forests. These barriers are most commonly found from the Horn of Africa through East Africa and the Rift Valley, resulting in terrain that is either difficult or impossible to traverse. These features become boundaries for the guineafowl, resulting in separate populations existing in fragmented distribution ranges. In some cases, this isolation leads to speciation on a larger scale, where different guineafowl species have differentiated from one another. On a smaller scale, restricted gene flow between neighboring populations leads to genetic diversity and can actually strengthen the species as a whole. Beginning around the 1800s, however, another force entered the African landscape which forever changed the natural balance. That force was the exponential growth of sedentary human populations. Roads and railways were established, and along those, cities were built. Agriculture exploded, and in the wake of human expansion, Africa's truly wild places began to shrink. Encroachment on habitat that was once occupied by wildlife caused those ranges to shrink into insular populations, resulting in even more heavily fragmented distributions than before. These fractured populations can only maintain a healthy stability if they're allowed to do so by their human neighbors. The establishment of protected spaces creates sanctuaries of habitat where wildlife can thrive without the pressure of developmental encroachment. With tools like education, community sensitization, and anti-poaching enforcement, man and wildlife can exist not only in a peaceful balance, but in a relationship of symbiotic mutualism. The stability of wild guineafowl populations faces a very unique threat that other African wildlife species don't. That threat is genetic pollution, introduced to wild populations by means of invasive domestic livestock. The domestic species is a result of captive European breeding from the hybridization of wild species collected during the early colonial era. In the last century, these domestic guineafowl have been introduced to rural markets and farms throughout Africa, from Morocco to South Africa, Senegal to Madagascar. As sedentary agriculture has expanded in the African landscape, the domestic guineafowl has expanded its distribution alongside it. The species in this genus are so closely related that they can readily produce fertile offspring, similar to the way that wolves and dogs, bison and cattle, or zebra and horses can. Unlike those animals, however, this hybridization poses a major risk to the stability of wild guineafowl populations. Where domestic guineafowl are kept free-ranging on rural farms, they come in contact with native wild populations, and where those fragmented groups live in the shadow of agricultural pressure, it forces higher frequency of interaction between the domestic and wild species. Just a single domestic male can breed with a wild hen, who in turn hatches a brood of hybrid offspring that become part of the wild population. In 1 year, the surrounding wild flock can have up to 50% of its genetics polluted as a result of domestic admixture. As the domestic species is spread throughout rural farms, the effects become ever impossible to reverse. Eventually, this leads to the localized extinction of unique and distinct guineafowl taxa, a sad reality we've witnessed in Morocco, Egypt, Uganda, Kenya, South Africa, and the DRC. Only by educating the public can we reverse this trend while we are still able to do so. To support this initiative or to find out more, click on the link in this video description.